KT, as always, I also want to start with a soundbite before we get into our conversation. Just watch this on Biden's flip-flop on China.
Is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. I mean, you know, they're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not competition for us. I've spent more time with President Xi of China than any world leader has. He firmly believes that China, before the year 3035, is going to own America, because autocracies can make quick decisions.
KT, I want to get your reaction to that, because when he was on the campaign trail, he was ripping pages out of the Trump playbook when it came to standing up to China. And now he's stepping back and saying, yeah, President Xi, he wants to own us by 2035. And he's also not saying what he plans to do about it, if anything at all.
Yeah, this is what makes me the most upset. Not only that he finally recognizes that the Chinese have every intention of replacing the United States as the dominant world power within the decade, within the next 22 decades, you know, economically, politically, militarily, technologically, in every other way. But what are we going to do about it? You know, you've got to admit you have a problem. I'm delighted he admits that we now have a problem, but what's he going to do about it? And my problem throughout with the Biden administration has been their words never match their deeds. You know, they talk a tough game. We're going to be tough on Russia. We're going to be tough on China. We're going to be tough on Iran. But they never do it. And that's why I think it's such a serious admission that time is running out. So time is running out for the United States to seize the initiative economically, technologically, militarily, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't see that we're doing it.
And speaking of technology, I think one of the things that everybody's worried about, but also the former NSA boss has talked about and discussed the fact that the United States is not ready if there was a potential cyber attack from China and Russia. You look at what happened with the Colonial Pipeline, for example. Cyber attacks can do a lot of damage, and our infrastructure is not ready to handle something like that. And God knows what kind of technology these countries have right now if they're armed to actually do it. So, you know, what do you think this administration can do to try to reduce the threat of that, or do you think that it's inevitable?
Well, one of the things I was really stunned with when I joined the Trump administration at the beginning of the administration was that the attitude in the government and in the military was, well, we don't want to have offensive cyber weapons. We know the other guys do, but we don't want to have them because it might be provocative. We're just going to concentrate on defense. But the problem with the American economy is that our economy is outside of whatever defensive ring you might have. So, for example, the Chinese say if they want to have defenses, that they're government defenses. All of their companies fall under the auspices of their government. Ours don't. And we don't have any real standards that we're forcing our private sector companies to meet. You know, a good example of this is a senior cybersecurity expert, a major company. She once told me that, well, you know, most big companies, they don't invest the kind of money they need to, and it's big money, to defend themselves against cyber attack. They just buy insurance, and they figure that after the fact, they'll apologize, everything will be fine. Right. We don't have a penalty, and we don't impose that on our own people. So that's part of it, but the big part of it is that the government isn't taking this seriously enough.
Real quickly, I just want to get your reaction to the conversation I was having with Governor Huckabee before, talking about the potential that COVID-19 leaked out of the Wuhan lab and what the country is going to do about it, and the administration as well. You know, the American people want some accountability here. A lot of people died. Our economy shut down. I mean, this was on a massive scale. People want answers.
Yeah, I think, to me, there are three issues here. What were the Chinese up to? What were they doing? We know they had a Chinese military presence there. The second question I have, though, is what were we doing there? You know, it was American dollars that were funding, maybe not this particular research project, but some of the research projects at that lab. And then finally, I have a real beef with American media, and particularly the social media tech titans, because they censored any suggestion that it came from a Chinese lab, that had leaked out of a Chinese lab. China got away with it for a year, and now we want to have some answers. It's going to be really tough, Jackie. The Chinese have had a year to clean up after themselves at the Wuhan
That's
lab.
Right. That's exactly right.
In a major policy shift, China on Monday said it will now allow married couples to have 3 children, up from its existing limit of 2. This comes off the back of the country recording a dramatic decline in births. The change was approved during a Politburo meeting chaired by President Xi Jinping. The official news agency Xinhua reported. Earlier this month, China's once-in-a-decade census showed that the population grew at its slowest rate during the last decade since the 1950s. In a poll online with the hashtag #AreYouReady for the three-child policy, about 29,000 of 31,000 respondents said they would never think of it, while the remainder chose the options ranging from "I'm ready and very eager to do so" to "I'm hesitating and there's a lot to consider." That poll on Xinhua's Weibo account was later removed. Reactions to the announcement were also mixed.
If there are conditions, then we'd have more kids. Nowadays, young people have to buy a house, and this amount of pressure is already huge. And then you have to consider the cost of education. I think this sort of policy will be difficult to implement.
China abolished its decades-old one-child policy in 2016 and began allowing couples to have up to 2 children. But the cost of raising children in Chinese cities has deterred many couples from starting families. The policy change includes supportive measures, but no further details were given. Meanwhile, shares in birth and fertility-related companies surged.